What's up everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to show you how to properly vacuum and recharge your AC system. This video is going to be brief and it's going to be full of tips so you can get this job done successfully. Now all you need to do this job is a set of gauges. These are the most basic. I got these for about 60 bucks, and a vacuum pump, and I also got this for about $60. Now, what I did on my AC system is I replaced the compressor. You can see it's not new and shiny. I replaced the condenser, and I replaced the expansion valve right there. Now, because of that, I don't have any charge in my system, so I have to pull a vacuum. Now, if your system is charged, you're gonna have to take it somewhere where they have a recovery machine, or buy a recovery machine yourself and extract the freon from it. Now, in my case, I need to pull a vacuum and make sure it holds the vacuum, and then I'm gonna recharge it. Now, to pull the vacuum, I'm gonna use my manifold gauges. Okay, now I'm gonna connect my blue side, or the low side, to the section side here, and I'm gonna connect the high side to the thinner tube, or the high pressure side. So basically, I'm gonna remove the caps. Okay, I'm just gonna connect the low side to the low side and the high side to the high side. Now, because the system was open, we can take a look here. It stays at 0. Okay, now I have both valves closed, so we can read the pressure off of the system, but nothing is gonna be able to go from this tube into the system, so as long as the valves are closed. So we have 0 pressure. Now I have the yellow hose connected to my vacuum pump here, so I'm just simply gonna turn it on, and we're gonna go watch the gauges go down into vacuum. Okay, now it's still at 0. Now when I open the valves, we're gonna see the gauges go down into 0. I'm gonna try and open them evenly, see how the noise, look at them going down. I'm gonna open up both sides. Okay. Now at this point, we're gonna let the vacuum run. I'm gonna let the vacuum pump, pull a vacuum on the system for about 45 minutes to an hour. Now, I did flush the system, and I pulled vacuum on it overnight. Now, if you flush the system and introduce the flushing solvent in the system, you want the system to be dry, as dry as possible. Now, like I said, I replaced the condenser, the compressor, the expansion valve, and I flushed out the evaporator core and the hoses. This is basically a complete AC system overhaul, and I used a flushing solvent, a specific AC flushing solvent. Now in my case, I pulled a vacuum on it overnight last night, and I added the specific amount of oil, refrigerant oil, which is this PAG 46 oil right here. As you can see, this system takes 8.5 ounces. I put in 8.5 ounces. And it's already in the system. Now the vacuum process only pulls out air and moisture. It doesn't pull out the oil that you put in there. So the oil stays. I put half of it in the compressor, half of it in the evaporator core. We're not supposed to put all of it in the compressor. So half of it in the compressor and the other half somewhere else. Now let's say I did not flush the system. Let's say on your car you replaced only one component, or maybe the condenser, maybe the compressor, maybe the evaporator core, or the expansion valve. Now in that case, you don't add the entire oil capacity of the system. Now you have to add just a replacement amount that's specified by the manufacturer. Now I go to Mercedes. Now if I just replace the compressor, I don't add 8 ounces, I add per se 2 ounces. So you have to find that information on the internet for yourself to be able to do the job properly and not overload the system. 2 things: do not overload with oil or overcharge with oil, and do not overcharge with refrigerant. Now this car takes 950 grams of refrigerant, and you can find that information somewhere under the hood on your car. In my case, it's right here on the cabin air filter cover here. It says r134 2.1 pounds, or 0.95 kilograms, which is 950 grams. Okay, now here's where I'm gonna use refrigerant cans. I try to get decent quality refrigerant. Some people say it doesn't matter. Trust me, it matters. I found the Avalanche. I haven't used it before, but this is my first time, so I'm gonna give it a shot. So I have the refrigerant. Like I said, the car takes 0.95 kilograms or 950 grams. Each can of those is 340 grams. So we're gonna use 2 of those plus 2/3 of the third one. But here's the thing. You have to be accurate when you fill the AC system. So what I'm gonna use a kitchen scale. So I'm gonna turn it on and I'm gonna weigh the can. The can is gonna weigh, let's go to grams. So this can weighs 440 grams, right? So I'm gonna use it, I'm gonna fill the system until I lose 340 grams, which is what's the capacity of this can. And then I'm gonna move on to the next can. Now 340 and 340 is 680. So to get to 950, I need just under 300 grams out of the third can, right? So I'm gonna, when I get to the third can, and you're gonna see me do that, I'm gonna put it on the scale, and I'm gonna zero the scale. And I'm gonna go down about 270 grams or so, and then the system will be full. I'm gonna shut the gauges off, and then the charge is gonna be complete. Okay, now to use these cans with the manifold gauges, you're gonna have to buy something like this. This is just a valve that goes on top of the can, screws on top of the can, and it screws to the yellow hose. I've used it before. It works super well to use these cans. Now I'm gonna set the can here while I'm charging. Start the car. First of all, when the car is under vacuum, again, you're gonna see me do that when the car is under vacuum, and I'm gonna start charging with the first can. After I charge with the first can, I'm gonna start the car, because if I don't put at least some charge in there, the system's gonna trigger a low charge with a pressure switch and not kick the compressor on. So I don't want that to happen. If that happens, I have a scanner I can hook onto it and clear the codes, but I don't want that to happen. So that's why I'm gonna start the charge with the car off, because I have some vacuum in the system that will suck the refrigerant in. And then once that happens, I'm gonna start the car and let the compressor compress and suck the rest of the refrigerant. So for now, we're gonna leave the vacuum pump on for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then shut the gauges off, and then shut the pump off, and then we're gonna let it sit for a few hours, make sure it doesn't lose vacuum. And then when it doesn't lose vacuum, I'm confident that we are good to go. We have no leaks in the system. Again, I went through this last night. I did an overnight vacuum on this car, and I'm pretty confident there should be no leaks. But again, we're gonna follow the proper procedure, proper steps, and then we're gonna leave it for a little bit, and then after that we can charge the system. Okay, so now that it has been 45 minutes to an hour, it is time for us to stop the vacuum pump and leave it for it to see if it holds. Now here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna shut the gauges first, right here, nice and tight right there, and as you can see, still holds vacuum. Now I will turn the pump off and remove this hose, because we're gonna use this hose to fill from the cans later on. So now we're basically done with the vacuum pump. It gets really hot. I'm gonna let it cool down. Take this. Okay, now as you can see, the gauges hold vacuum or negative pressure. So you're supposed to leave this a few hours. Some people leave it overnight, and then we'll get back to it. If it still holds vacuum, very nice. That means we have no leaks in the system, and we are good to go start charging. Okay, after a few hours, we come check the gauges. They're exactly where we left them. So that means I'm really confident there's no leaks in the system. And now we are ready to fill the system. Now I have screwed on this valve at the end of that yellow hose, and I can start charging the system. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna grab the first can, give it a good shake, turn the scale on. I'm gonna put it on the scale, and I am going to, this valve is backed out all the way. I'm going to screw it on the valve first. Okay, so here's how we're gonna charge the system. I installed the can onto the valve, onto the yellow hose, and the valve is backed out all the way. So I'm gonna set it on the scale, right? I am going to zero out the scale. Now, as refrigerant goes into the system, I'm gonna see the scale go into the negative as the weight transfers from the can into the system. Now, we only fill through the suction side, through the blue side, the low pressure side. So this stays closed the rest of the entire process. Now I am ready to actually open that valve, bleed the yellow line. It's a must to bleed the yellow line so you can purge any air from this line. And then we are ready to open the low side and start charging. So I'm gonna close this valve slowly until the refrigerant start going from the can. See how you can hear it? To the hose. Okay, right about there. And then I'm gonna come to the hose here and I'm gonna crack open the yellow line until refrigerants start coming out. Now again, have eye protection. Okay, now the line is purged and the scale shows negative 16 grams. So we lost 16 grams, that's okay. I'm gonna zero the gauge again. So now we start charging the system. Now I'm gonna open the low side. We are ready to let refrigerant go into the system. There it is, taking all the charge off the can. Now when it stops, I can hear it. Now when it stops taking the charge from the can, we can start the car then. Okay, that seems to be the highest setting there. It's gonna go down and it's gonna keep on going down. It's a little bit of a slow process, but it works really well. So especially the scale, it gives you a visual, a number that you are actually losing refrigerant from the can into the AC system in the car. So I'm gonna let this keep going down until it stops. When it stops, we are ready to start the car. We're gonna do it together, and then we're gonna see how that goes. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna actually grab a pen and paper and write down the amount that is filled so I can add them all up and be sure to get the right amount in there. The scale has stopped and I zeroed it out again, so it's not taking any more charge, which means the pressure is equalized between the can and the system. So now it's a good time to start the car. Okay, so I'm gonna start the car. Oh, so you see that? So here's what happened. What happened is the system says, low refrigerant. That's why it's flashing. It triggered low refrigerant, so it won't turn on. Okay, so I'll have to connect my scanner and clear that code. Okay, so I have connected my scanner, cleared the codes. Let's try again. Here, when I turn the compressor on, you're gonna see it's gonna request it to be about 70%. That's what it should do. So I'm gonna turn it on here. Turn AC. Okay, there we go. It's not flashing anymore. Okay, we're requesting it at 70%, which is perfect. That's what we want. Now I'm going to lower the AC all the way down. Okay, AC is on. Fan kicked on, which is good. The scale is okay, so this takes a while. It is pulling down the refrigerant. The gauges are looking better. The low side went low, and the high side is going high. That means the compressor kicked on, and it's actually pulling refrigerant. So the can is freezing up. That's normal. We look at the weight. It's pulling down the refrigerant into the system. So that's what you want to see. You want to see the low side going low and the high side going high once the compressor kicks on. So that will improve, these readings will improve as the system takes the proper amount of refrigerant. At the end, depends on the manufacturer, you want the low side to be anywhere around 50. I would say between 40 and 60 is fine. And the high side between 150 to 250. Now, it depends on the manufacturer of the vehicle and the compressor. These may fluctuate. Again, you want the low side to be low, the high side to be on the high side, and put the proper amount of refrigerant and oil in the system, and you should be good to go anyways. Okay, so this is our second can. Once we get to the third can, we will actually weigh the can and make sure we don't take the whole thing in there. I filled one and about half of the other one, and I'm filling number 3 now actually. But I'm gonna get back to number 2 here. So according to my calculations, I have about 400 grams in the system right now. About 500 with this can, what's gone out of this can, so as you can see. But here, actually the scale thing is more reliable if you just, after you disconnect the can, you weigh it. Because here, look, like this can, I used almost all of it. So if I zero it here, put the can, it weighed 440 at the beginning. So now it's more reliable for me to know that I used almost a 300 grams out of it. So 270. So this, it's more reliable than this because the hose makes it fluctuate. And I personally like to disconnect it and then weigh it. So, but hey, let's look at the pressures. Okay, the pressures look absolutely fantastic and where they need to be. The low side is going up to around 50 as we pressurize more refrigerant, and the high side is going up to around 250. So at the very end, I would like to see it around 50 on the low side and 250 on the high side. So I'm gonna finish filling it up, and then I'm gonna show you the final pressure. You know, it's also super helpful if you have a scanner. So I'm looking at the pressure here. So the refrigerant pressure is 14 bar, which is really good at idle. Before, I remember it was around 13.6 on the old compressor, so this one's operating much better now. The second one here says request a component. This is how much we're asking the compressor to work. So 70 is 70%. So at 70% we're getting this 14 bars at idle is really good. I mean, let me tell you, I know how the system works, and before it wasn't even close to that. So that I'm really happy with it. Okay, so I am finally done charging, and I'll show you the pressure readings here. So here's the final pressure readings. The low side at about 35, and the high side at about 215 or 230. Yeah, 215-ish. So that's about normal. Okay, I am finally done, and according to my calculations, I put in 929 grams of refrigerant. This scale is awesome to use here, and I used about 4 cans. This one was half empty. I've had it from before. These ones, some of them I just couldn't get the entire thing empty, except for one. I think it was this one. I used all 340 grams out of it, like perfectly. This is perfectly garbage now. So yeah, this is the readings. They're still showing on the gauge. Again, like I said, around the 40 on the low side and around the 250, which you're looking for. Now I filled this car with the perfect amount, so I am confident that I'm not gonna add any more, and it's gonna work perfectly fine. Now Mercedes is a bit different from other cars like Hondas and Toyotas. You can go by pressure, but these European cars, you have to go by weight. So I'm perfectly done. I shut off the gauges and everything, and now I'm just gonna disconnect, and that's it. Job well done. The AC inside is freezing. It will freeze your fingers off, which is awesome. That's what I need. With that being said, I hope this video is helpful to you. Again, one last step is before you disconnect the each can, push this down all the way. When you disconnect the can, you're gonna get like a quick pss, but at least you're not gonna bleed the hose in between cans. Just to be environmentally responsible, that's one thing you can do. Again, with that being said, I hope this video is helpful to you. If it is, please give it a big thumbs up. Ask any questions in the comment section. I worked a lot on AC systems, and I can hopefully I can answer your question for you. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. I really hope this was helpful to anyone out there trying to fix their AC. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.